I don't know if you can focus on something like this. It's gonna be a little.
Call the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for making it on such a fine summer day. We have some people with masks with zip codes on them, but everybody else is here. Can I have a roll call? See who is here today, please.
Dr.
Here.
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
I'm here.
Mayor Judd.
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Wayland.
Here.
Mr. Strand.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Shirley.
Here.
Mr. Steen.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
Here.
Ms. Carlson.
Here.
That is everyone.
Good. Commissioner Shirley, you can come back to town sometime if you'd like. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, please?
Moved
So
by
moved.
Campbell.
Second by Judd.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the order of the agenda as well?
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have a consent agenda, which is to approve the financial report and the voucher approval. If nobody wants to pull anything from that, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second by Steen.
Okay. This would be a roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Judd.
Aye.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Wayland.
Yes.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Ms. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank
That is
you.
everyone.
Good. Executive Director report. Joel Paulson to report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to see all the board members, mostly in person. It's been a while since we've had an opportunity to do this, so I welcome the change. I want to start off first by introducing our new hire. We were fortunate to be able to go through a very robust process and get a great new engineering director for the Diversion Authority. So I'd like to present Mr. Chris Bachigard and allow him to address the board and say a few things.
Thanks, Joel. Mayors and board members, I'm excited to be here. I'm happy to be a part of this group and looking forward to serving all of you and bringing this project to completion. For a little bit of background, I've been an engineer in the Fargo-Moorhead area since, I guess I moved to town in 1997, right after the big flood. So, and then helped fight on the front lines in the 2009 flood, and from that day on said this needs to happen, and I've been passionate about it, working in the other side of the aisle for a while. I'm really excited to be here and happy to be a part of this team, and if you guys need anything at any time, let me know.
Joel, are you going to have his contact information sent out to board members?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. We'll get his email and his cell phone information out to everyone. And he's hit the ground running on week number 4 now, and a lot of activity happening, doing a fabulous job. So very happy that we have him on board.
Very good. Welcome aboard, Chris.
All right, I'll just go into the strategic initiatives that we're currently working on right now to give just a brief update to the board and allow any questions from any board members. The State Water Commission did send a letter requesting information from the Diversion Authority pertaining to our appropriation from the 2019 legislative session. And so if the board can recall, we had $66.5 million appropriated for that session. The letter was really in regards to the lack of revenue coming into the Resources Trust Fund in order to meet all of the obligations from the 2019 session. This letter, as we understand, went out to all water projects in the state of North Dakota that have funding through the Resources Trust Fund. And it basically asked if there were dollars we were not going to use immediately in the next few years, could we identify those and defer those to a future date? So we did an analysis and we identified approximately $22.5 million that we could defer into later years as construction costs that occur with our P3 developer agreement. And so we did notify the state that that there is some potential for the Diversion Authority to defer funds to a later date. Ultimately, I believe what they're trying to do is balance the projected revenue coming into the Resources Trust Fund with the proposed outlay obligations that the State Water Commission would have. So no action for the board today, but I wanted to make everyone aware of that request.
Our appropriation from the 2019 legislative session.
Sounds like
And
me.
so the board should recall
Smart
we
guy.
had 66 million appropriated for that session.
Going
Grant,
back
do you want to
in
make
time.
sure you're on mute, please?
Okay. All right, let's try to progress here. The next item on here is the P3 update. One-on-one meetings continue to be held. There's actually one going on right now. We've spent a significant effort continuing to interact with the 3 development teams. All 3 of them, have started to ramp up their technical teams, and we're getting a lot of different back and forth interaction with all of them related to innovative technical concepts and cost savings discussions. So it's going very well. And then the contested case hearing continues to be a top priority for us right now. And John will do a more comprehensive update on that towards the end of the agenda here. So any questions related to what we're currently working on?
Mr. Chair, can you talk a little bit, so the P3 timeline, can you just talk about how you anticipate that going? Thank you.
Absolutely, Commissioner Petcorn. And this next slide shows the proposed schedule for a number of key activities moving forward. I know it might be a little difficult to see, due to the content on here, but the third grouping of key activities down the list will show our public-private partnership procurement. So we're expecting the final RFP to go out on September 25th. At that point, there will be limited, if any, changes occurring to the RFP document. That will give the developers time to prepare their technical and financial proposals. We're anticipating technical proposals November 11th and financial proposals on December 11th.
Can I ask a follow-up question can I ask a follow-up question?
Certainly.
So then December 11th, so then we're going to select more than likely one of those 3, correct? And
That's
then
correct.
the number that they give us, that is going to be a firm number. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So very similar to a competitive bidding environment where you select the low bid. The same process will take place here. So we'll get the 3 bids. One will be the low bid. There is a element of qualifications-based selection in it as well. And we will have a selection committee that will review all of the proposals and the bids and recommend a bid for approval to the board. And that selection process is expected to occur around January 8th. All right, Mr. Chair, if there's no further questions on the previous slide, I just want to highlight a few additional key activities here. So as we move into August, there's a number of significant events that are going to occur with the contested case hearing. We're anticipating that the final findings of the ALJ will occur in August. in that closing briefs and response briefs, the joint findings will be submitted to the ALJ in August. And then the closing briefs and response briefs will be towards the end of August and into the first part of September. That'll give the ALJ approximately 60 days to make a recommendation, which puts us into November. And then the Minnesota DNR Commissioner has approximately 60 days to make a determination at that point. And so we're looking at an end of the year potential for a revised permit from the DNR. I won't get into lands and mitigation. Let's see. I've laid out a number of other key activities on here for the board to review as well. Just because there's so many things going on at the moment, I think this schedule will be a good resource for the board to just kind of keep track of how everything's coming together. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Is the Corps reporting today, Joe?
They are. I believe Terry Williams is on the line.
Terry and Paul?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. So I think Paul is going to open up the monthly update document, and I'll be reading off of that. So number one, for the diversion inlet structure, we remain on schedule with a completion date in June of 2023. The first concrete pour was supposed to be today, but it was delayed until Monday due to the big rain you guys had there over the past weekend. So big day on Monday. Number two, Wild Rice River structure. The completion date remains October of 2023. I've included a very abbreviated schedule for that construction with completion in 2024. You can see that it kind of mirrors what's going on at the diversion inlet structure, just lags by a few months. Number three, Red River structure design. We remain on schedule with that as well. We're planning a virtual meeting with anybody interested from the technical folks, from the sponsors, and then our agency partners to show the model, the physical model, and the testing that's being done with that. And again, we remain on schedule with that design. Number four, Southern Embankment Reach SE1. The design was a bit delayed on that. We're going to have that out for review to the sponsors on the 27th with final plans and specs in September, and then award of a contract second or third quarter due to some delays in land acquisition. Number five, Reach SE2A, that remains on schedule. The 35% design review by the sponsors scheduled for September of this year. And then another big effort, the I-29 raise design. I think the 90% design was provided to everybody today for review. Award of a contract anticipated in the second quarter of FY21. And then the next page shows all of the reaches and the structures of the Southern Embankment for your reference. And then there's also a picture taken, I think it was last couple days ago, where they're placing formwork and preparing for that first concrete pour on Monday. And then last, I believe there was a question at the outreach committee meeting about the number of local subcontractors at the diversion inlet or the wild rice structure. And so, of course, the prime is Ames. For local subcontractors, we have about 22 total. And there's a listing of those. They include some main subcontractors and regional ones, local offices of larger firms like Terracon and Aggregate Industries, and local suppliers and service providers as well. The current number of construction personnel on site at the diversion inlet is 14, with a max of 50 anticipated. And then at the wild rice, about 11 workers out there now, with a peak anticipated of 50 workers. With that, that ends my brief, unless there's any questions.
Any questions? No, thank you, Terry. Thanks for the update. We'll have to get out there for the concrete pour and see that going. Uh,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. General Counsel update, resolution lease funds. John Shockley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On your agenda and in your packet, you have a resolution that addresses the procedures and also the property that has been leased and sold between Cass County Joint and the Diversion Authority. This is really a housekeeping matter that was generated as part of the audit. One of the items that the auditors wanted was just a resolution clarifying who was owning what property and renting the property and distributing the rent. So from time to time, this resolution will be updated as more property by the joint board is acquired. In sum, what it does is provide that as the joint board acquires property, it'll list that property in its name, and then it'll remit the rent proceeds back to the diversion authority minus any costs associated with renting the property, such as taxes and administrative costs associated with renting it out that's paid to Fifers. The finance committee, I wasn't at yesterday's finance committee as it was at the one-on-ones with the P3 teams, but my understanding is they recommended approval of it.
Rick Steen, did you chair that yesterday or did Bernie Dardis?
Oh, I did yesterday, and the finance committee did meet and recommend approval for this agreement.
You want to do that as a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
It's Chuck, I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions by any of the members? Roll call vote, please. Thanks, John.
Dr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson. Yes. Mayor Judd,
Aye.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Aye.
Mr. Wayland,
Yes.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Public outreach, anybody have a report on public outreach? Paul?
I'm gonna bring it up here.
Roger?
Roger's gonna hear it.
Well, he's going to make a speech today.
I don't see the gavel. Public outreach. We met yesterday. Executive Paulson gave us an update on water topics, committee presentation, and also the status of the Resources Trust Fund. That's where our money comes from for this project. Another item was property owner outreach. Big thing happened here this week, and the Clomar is back from FEMA, which is fantastic. We've been waiting for this, and we're hoping over the next month that it'll be all ready to be reviewed, and so that we can understand what the impacts are, so the landowners can understand the impacts in the upper staging area. And included in that property owner outreach will be a letter explaining what the impacts are to their project, to their property, and how the project will mitigate those impacts. We also went through the communication plan update review. We, a couple months ago, month and a half, it's been 2 months ago, we had a focus group from the outreach committee that gave suggestions of where and how we could go forward on our communication plan. And now all of those ideas are coming together in a communication plan. And we hope to have that before you at the September meeting. Don't forget about the construction videos right there. We won't play those today, but certainly they're of interest, and the public seems to really appreciate those too by the hits that we get. And the last thing, Drain 27 wetland restoration project. This came on kind of late in the plan, but it's moving along, and it's a restoration of a wetland just southeast of Horace, and it will be used to mitigate wetlands that we disturb during the construction of the project. And there was a public meeting, a virtual meeting, with about 36 people in attendance, and there was a lot of good questions, a lot of hard questions, and a lot of good conversation and answers for those conversations. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Good work, Roger. Finally got that. Lomar. Land management. Joel or Paul, who's got that?
I would just comment that land management did not meet this month, but I'll let these guys update you on what's going on. We're very, very busy, but we had no policy meetings to discuss this month, but we will be meeting next month.
And you're making progress. Is that what you're saying, Mary?
We're making tremendous progress, and I think Joel's ready to tell you all about it.
He's smiling, waiting, but he's getting ready now.
I actually think Eric Dodds is on the line, and he can give us an update.
Hi, good afternoon, board members. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So I believe in your packet you have the monthly status report, if Paul is able to pull that up. Usual report that you're probably familiar with. Wanted to make sure you have that again this month. We are making progress. It's sort of slow and steady progress. A lot of the focus has been on the channel, in particular the areas south of I-94, where we're continuing to be in negotiations with property owners. We are stepping through all of the rigorous steps in the statutory process. And next month, we will be at the Cass County Commission meeting on both of their meetings, first on August 3rd, and then secondly on August 17th. We've invited a handful of property owners to those meetings, and I guess, unfortunately, we'll likely be at a situation where we're going to be asking for the county commission's approval to utilize last resort eminent domain on those properties, some of the properties. Progress-wise, we are making progress. A few other things that I would maybe just point out that we've been working on over the last month or so. If you recall, we did retain a crop insurance developer. They have submitted the draft of their first report, and so we're reviewing that and getting ready to provide some comments back to them. We also received the updated draft of the Phase 1 flowage easement report from Crown Appraisals. We look forward to having them give a presentation in August on the findings of their updated report. Otherwise, I think the Clomer news that you just heard about is something that is integrated between our lands team and our outreach team, and we're getting ready to explain to upstream property owners where the impacts are with a little bit more certainty. So those are the things I'd share with you. Happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions of the members?
Can I ask a question,
Mr.
Mr. Chair?
Pipcorn?
And this is for Eric and maybe for Roger too, and it's kind of a holistic question. Are the current farming conditions and economic and all that, do you think it makes it more favorable to acquire land and things like that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Dave, I would say no, that it does not have a very large impact, maybe a small one. But for the most part, the landowners that are going to come before the commission that have been in negotiation for quite a while, they've resisted letting go of their property. And well, I'm not going to go into it now, but it's an emotional thing. And for a lot of them, it's not the financial thing. It's just that, you know, our ancestors were here, and grandma and grandpa were here, and dad was here, and now I'm here, and you know, those things are hard to get through. it's, it's, you know, it's easy to sit here and look at the facts and look at the pictures and look at it as just a piece of property. But at the joint board level, we, you know, get into direct conversation with these people. And they're not just a number on here. So, but to answer your question, no. I think financially, you know what, it's difficult farming right now, but I don't think that it's making it any easier to acquire property.
Thanks, Roger. Maybe the only thing I would maybe add on to that is, I think Roger's spot on. With the property owners that we have been unable to reach an agreement with, there's generally two categories. Those that, you know, Roger explained where, you know, there's sentimental issues, which are really emotional, as you can tell. And then there's another group of property owners that are advocating that their land should be valued as development value. And frankly, our appraisers have done a real thorough job in suggesting that it's, you know, it may be developable at some point down the road, you know, 10, 20, 30 years from now. But as we sit here today, it's valued as ag land. And so we have this sort of argument that we're not paying as much as it could be worth 20 years from now or something like that. And those are tough situations that we haven't been able to bridge. And so I guess, you know, unfortunately, or maybe unfortunately, that's where we do have a pretty good court system that can help adjudicate those types of differences. So.
Any other comments? Thank you. We go to finance. Eric or Rexstein, was this yours or? We heard that Mayor Dardis volunteered to be chairman of this committee. Thank you, Bernie, for doing that, and hope for great results this legislative session from you.
You have a great team of people that twisted my arm, is what you have. First of all, I'm honored to share the table with all of you that have been working so diligently on the Diversion Authority for so many years, and to become a part of that is truly humbling. Number two, I'd like to publicly thank Commissioner Mike Thorstad for his years of service representing the city of West Fargo. Mike is one of those quiet leaders, but very, very, very effective. And I consider him a dear friend, and I have called on his counsel with regard to me joining you on this committee, and he was quite honestly my biggest supporter to try and get West Fargo to have somebody on the finance committee. So out of respect for him, with all due respect to everybody that wanted to twist my arm, Mike Thorstad was the closer.
We love the fact he was a quiet leader.
Yeah, you're telling me to shut up right now, aren't you? But with that, I want to also thank Commissioner Rick Steen for yesterday, being I got elected yesterday afternoon, and he stepped up as the vice chairman of the group, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Rick.
All right. And from there, I'm going to ask Joel to step up and talk about the three board approval contract actions, and you'll cover all three. If we have questions, we can certainly ask them at any time, and we'll take action on those at the end.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Steen. So I have three contracting actions for the board to review. The first one's Task Order 17, Amendment 9 for Work Package 42. And Work Package 42 is the in-town levies for the city of Fargo. So this is an amendment to HMG's task order for services during construction related to a few of the in-town levy projects. The second one is Task Order 21, Amendment 8, and that's for P3 support services through HMG. And as I had indicated previous in the meeting, we are in numerous one-on-one meetings with the P3 developers right now where they're proposing different types of construction, different types of options We need some additional technical analysis from HMG to vet those out. So that is an amendment as well. Both of those engineering amendments are contained within the program budget and were anticipated. So no surprises here. The third one is a bid that we received for work package 43G, which is a wetland mitigation project in Oxbow. It entails 3 old golf holes for at the golf course out there that are incidentally on an oxbow, and it's to replace that to a natural environment, trees, plantings, those sorts of things. However, all 3 bids that we received were significantly over the engineer's estimate. And so we are recommending to reject those bids, and we'll go back and rebid that project and with the intent of bringing favorable bids forward to the board. So.
Thanks, Joel. Any questions for Joel on those items? If not, then I'll move to approve the contract actions as presented.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson. Yes. Mayor Judd,
Aye.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Aye.
Mr. Whalen,
Yes.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
And just to finish up the finance report, all the other items have been addressed in the consent agenda, except for one item, and the audit report for the Diversion Authority is ready, and the Finance Committee will review that at next month's meeting.
Very good. Any, Roger Olson, please.
I do have a question for,
Joel Paulson.
why are, well, yeah, I know. I was trying to frame my question correctly here.
Okay.
Why are we involved in wetland restoration in the city of Oxbow?
Good.
And is it part of the project, or are we getting credit for wetland restoration, or explain that, please?
Good question. It is a mitigation project. So as the board knows, anytime we implement and something in the natural environment and we remove wetland, we have to replace that somewhere else. So the wetland mitigation project that's contained within Oxbow is offsetting the wetlands that were removed due to the implementation of the Oxbow levees. And so it's an offset. It's part of the program, and it has been anticipated, and it's included in the program budget. It is not a critical path project, and that's what gives us the ability to go back and try to get more favorable bids and bring that before the board. We were intending to start construction this fall, and it would go into next spring. But yes, to answer your question, we get credit for the reestablishment of the natural environment in relation to that project for our disruption with the Oxbow levees.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on finance? Next element is executive session. We're going to go into executive session at this time to discuss a variety of different things that are in the packet. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, forgive me. I think this is Commissioner Strand's first meeting, is it not?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Maybe we should just acknowledge that before executive session. So.
Thank
So
you.
sorry, he's in that shirt that distracts everybody, but Commissioner Strand is replacing Commissioner Grinberg as a member of this Diversion Authority. Welcome aboard, John, and I apologize for not introducing you earlier in the system, but with the shirt you have on, I'm sure all the members noticed you right away. So.
Thank you very much.
Could I have a motion for executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll move to the executive session in the River Room. We'll come back here and adjourn when it's time to adjourn. Thank you. We'll call the meeting back to order. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.